In the spring of 2020, while the world was locked inside and television executives were scrambling to produce anything at all, ABC aired a broadcast called the Disney Family Sing-Along. Celebrities performed Disney songs from their living rooms. It was exactly as awkward as it sounds, but there was one moment in that special that nobody talked about at the time, and that, looking back, reads like the first frame of a story that would take 6 years to finish. Sabrina Carpenter was 20 years old. She had been on Disney Channel. She had started making music. She was not yet famous in any serious sense, and she performed in the same broadcast as the Muppets. That is a small thing, except it is not once you know what comes next. By February 2026, that same Sabrina Carpenter was standing on the original Muppet Theater stage as both the headline guest star and a credited executive producer of the first proper Muppet Show special in decades. The special pulled 7.5 million viewers in 8 days. It hit #1 on Disney Plus in the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Germany simultaneously. The critical response was almost uniform. Reviewers called it the first Muppet production in years that genuinely felt like The Muppet Show. This is the story of how that happened, not the press release version, the actual version, which involves a concert arrest, a producer who understood exactly one thing about why the Muppets work, and a casting decision that was less about pop stardom than most people assumed. To understand why this dynamic works, the place to start is not 2026, it is the decade before it. Every failed Muppet production of the last 15 years failed for the same reason, even though they all looked different on the surface. Muppets Most Wanted in 2014, the theatrical sequel to the successful 2011 comeback, earned less than half of what its predecessor made at the box office. That killed the film series. Then came The Muppets on ABC in 2015, a workplace mockumentary in the style of The Office. One season canceled. Muppets, now on Disney Plus in 2020, tried short-form streaming sketches, semi-improvised, no connective tissue. It felt like content. The Muppets Mayhem in 2023 gave Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem their own storyline and lost the ensemble entirely in the process. 4 projects, 4 different formats. One shared mistake: every single one tried to modernize what the Muppets are instead of just executing what they already were. Jim Henson figured out the formula in 1976, and it has not changed. A crumbling theater, a frog trying to hold everything together, absolute chaos on every level, and one human being who has to survive all of it. The human guest is not a host. They are not a narrator. They are a pressure test. The Muppets push against them until something interesting happens, and the only way that works is if the guest actually plays back. This is why casting matters more for The Muppet Show than for almost anything else in television. The show is interactive in a way variety formats usually are not. Miss Piggy needs someone she can threaten. Gonzo needs someone who will accept his logic as reasonable. Kermit needs someone who can look at a frog and respond to the emotion behind the foam and fleece, not the foam and fleece itself. Most celebrities cannot do this, not because they lack talent, because they lack a specific kind of unself-consciousness that is genuinely rare. You can see it when a guest looks at the puppeteer instead of the puppet. The moment that happens, the entire illusion collapses. Rudolf Nureyev understood this in 1977 and demanded to be written into scenes that had nothing to do with his fame. Harry Belafonte in Season 3 did not come to perform his hits. He came to make something with the Muppets that could not exist anywhere else. Those episodes are different from every other episode. You can feel it. Sabrina Carpenter has that quality. She has had it for years, and the evidence was there before anyone in the industry put it together formally. In 2024 and into 2025, during the global run of Short and Sweet, Carpenter was doing something at every tour stop that almost no pop star does. She was arresting people. A running bit in the show where a celebrity in the audience gets detained for being too hot before she plays her song Juno. The list of people she arrested across the tour reads like a roster of that era's pop culture. Chappell Roan, Charlie XCX, Taylor Swift, each one played along differently. Each one revealed something about how they perform under unexpected pressure. Then came the final night. November 23, 2025, 6 straight nights at Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles, the last show of the Short and Sweet Tour, the last arrest of the entire run. Carpenter looked into the crowd, and sitting there, with her own microphone and an entourage that included a large bear named Bobo, was Miss Piggy. What happened next was not in any script. Miss Piggy accepted the situation entirely on her own terms. She had notes about the concert she would share later. She took selfies with fans. When Carpenter pulled out the pink fuzzy handcuffs that were part of the bit, Bobo announced he had brought his own. The crowd lost their minds. And that detail is not small. The Muppet Show special had already been filmed by this point. Miss Piggy was at that concert as a colleague, not as a stranger. They had already spent weeks on set together, and yet the dynamic on stage felt completely alive, completely spontaneous, and completely specific to who these two were together. That is not something you can cast your way into after the fact. That is something that exists or it does not. Seth Rogen understood this when he and Evan Goldberg at Point Grey Pictures took the project to Disney. Their approach was not about modernization. Rogen has said publicly that the goal was essentially to copy the 1976 formula without editing it. Don't fix what works. Don't add a documentary layer. Don't update the aesthetic. Don't make it self-aware about being a legacy property. Just make an episode of The Muppet Show. This sounds obvious. It was not obvious. Disney had spent a decade making Muppet content that either over-explained what the Muppets were or under-trusted what they could do. Rogen's instinct, developed partly from his own appearance in the 2020 Singalong, where he performed alongside the Muppets before Carpenter did, was that the audience did not need to be reintroduced. They needed to be trusted. Albertina Rizzo wrote the script. Alex Timbers, whose background is in theatrical direction, Broadway live performance, directed it. The choice of Timbers matters because The Muppet Show has always been theatrical in a very specific sense. It is not cinematic. It is a stage show that happens to be on television. A director who thinks in terms of live performance is, structurally, a better fit than someone coming from film or drama. The plot of the special is the original plot, essentially. Kermit has accidentally said yes to too many acts out of politeness. The schedule is impossible. Everything is backstage chaos. Miss Piggy wants more stage time than the show has. Fozzie causes problems while trying to help. Seth Rogen gets accidentally cut from the lineup. Maya Rudolph appears in a Muppet News Flash segment that reports her death while she is standing right there. And Sabrina Carpenter opens the show with Man-Child, performed in a dive bar set run by a deeply unhappy Sam Eagle surrounded by frackles and dancing chickens. The Carpenter and Miss Piggy dynamic is the spine of the special in the same way the guest relationship has always been the spine of the show. They start in conflict, matching outfits, Piggy furious, a door gets broken, Kermit gets flattened. They reach a detente through Carpenter telling Piggy with complete sincerity that she modeled her whole look and energy after her. Piggy responds that her attorneys have taken notice and will be in touch. Then later, during Islands in the Stream, the duet Kermit and Piggy have sung together since the 80s. Piggy simply walks Kermit off stage mid-number and takes his part with Carpenter instead. Both of them play it completely straight. And the special ran 32 minutes. It scored 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. The New York Times called it proof that the Muppets do not need to be updated because they exist outside of time. 7.5 million viewers in 8 days. #1 on Disney Plus in multiple countries in the same week. If you want to know whether the Muppets are back, this is your answer. But the bigger question is what Sabrina Carpenter actually represents in all of this. Because she is not just the pop star they cast to bring in younger viewers. She is an executive producer. She shaped the material. She brought to the table a relationship with Miss Piggy that had been developing in public for over a year before a camera rolled. Harry Belafonte got 1 episode. Rudolf Nureyev got 1 episode. Peter Sellers got 1 episode, and he showed up as a different character in every single scene to avoid playing himself. Sabrina Carpenter produced the episode she was in. That has not happened before. Not in the original run, not in any of the modern iterations, and whatever the Muppets become next, series, films, stages we have not seen yet, this special and the way it was built is where that story starts. Subscribe if you don't want to miss what comes next.